Hi, this video is going to be around why most remodelers stay stuck in feast or famine and how you can break out permanently. This is for remodelers doing 5 to 40 million a year. If your pipeline feels inconsistent and you have strong months and slow ones and you're constantly trying to fill that gap, something that's really important is that there are a very high chances that this is not going to be random and it's not going to be a talents issue necessarily, even though you can face shortages there. It's most likely a systems issue. Now, why does this even matter, right? Breaking feast or famine completely changes how your business feels. When your pipeline is predictable, your crews will stay busy, your margins will stabilize, your hiring becomes intentional, growth becomes boring, and boring is honestly good. The goal here also is not constant growth because I don't really think that's possible. I mean, it can happen, but you're going to have ups and downs in business, right? The goal here is more about trying our best to achieve controlled growth because that is where predictability occurs and that's where you can actually scale up with less chaos, better margins, and better hiring, better growth. And that is when business becomes honestly fun. Feast of famine usually does show up as strong referral months. You have sudden drop offs. Marketing is only turned on when your pipeline's already empty. Sales pressure exists generally when demand is low. You have overhiring during busy months, underutilization during slow months, and you obviously don't avoid you don't feel like you can avoid the winter volatility. And this again, I've seen this happen to remodelers that are bigger too, 10, 20, 30 million a year. In fact, I've seen some do a few million a year that don't even track the numbers properly. And revenue does seem fine on paper, but their stress stays high. The real cause is not going to be what agencies say. Feast of famine is not just caused by bad ads, the algorithm, or one bad month. It is generally caused by reactive marketing instead of planned demand. You only react when you have lesser clients, lesser inquiries, and it is something that is generally done too late, right? There's no rolling forecast, there's no buffer between demand and capacity. There's over reliance on one channel too when it comes to acquisition, when it comes to growth. There's no system to warn future demand. There's no reactivation of past inquiries. You don't have a proper CRM or proper system where you're actually tracking your inquiries because you're going to be in business for 10, 20, 30 years and you're going to have an absolute wealth of just numbers over there, numbers of people, contact information that's just like almost always underutilized, and you're generally going to get decisions made under pressure. This is what results in basically, I mean, this type of short cycle thinking generally results in issues because we're trying to run a long cycle business. And this is also why more leads will not fix this, right? And this is where people get it wrong. Like more leads will not fix volatility, it just makes it work. It just makes it worse generally. When you have more leads without structure, it will lead to poor timing, low intent conversations, sales burnout, lower close rates, higher costs, more stress. And over here, feast of famine generally tends to not be a volume problem, but a control, an attribution, and an awareness problem. Just because you throw more leads in, like, let's just say a month, right before things become dry for you, is not going to be the best solution for it. A little example, right? If you have a forecast, for a rolling forecast for 3 to 12 months, you would be able to see when things slow down. And more than anything, just having proper visibility on your projects being booked, your crews being busy, the times when you're going to actually have slower months historically, or when you think you can actually get in more clients. That is like, having awareness of these numbers is extremely important. Another reason why a tool like a rolling forecast or a method like that helps is because, and this is just something I've personally seen, at 7 and 8 figures, the most important thing is capital allocation. And hopefully you're not still stuck in the day-to-day operations, at least to keep the business running. But even if you are, the next step would be obviously to replace yourself or to get people to actually run the business so you can work on the business instead. But capital allocation is quite important, and just getting more leads when your operations, your systems, or your capacity is not dialed in ends up just causing issues. Now, what actually breaks the cycle over here? You want to build a 3 to 12 month rolling forecast. You want to know what is booked, what's pending, what's warmed up, and you should never be surprised by next quarter. Neither should you be surprised by historical trends, especially if you're like a decade into the business. And the best thing that you want to do is take preventive measures instead of reactive measures. You want to separate, let's just say you're trying to work on acquisition and you're trying to get in more clients through a predictable way. You want to separate demand capture from demand creation. So some marketing is going to fill today, some marketing is going to fill the future, and most remodelers and design build firms will only just do one of them. And even then, they will not be able to properly utilize that platform or their budget in the best way possible. So you want to act, deeply analyze it and make sure you have somebody competent in place. Always maintain a buffer for sure, right? Like your pipeline should always exceed capacity, and accordingly you can have incentives if to have people wait, because there's obviously a balance there between keeping people waiting for too long and at least having that buffer. But that is what allows you to make calm decision making and make preventive longer term decisions instead of reactive decisions. When you have issues a lot of the times, let's just say right now you might be in a situation where you have dry months coming up and you just don't know what to do. A really good solution, like I said like I mentioned before about past leads, tends to come when you have a list of people who inquired with you before or who have worked with you before. Past leads, old estimates, dormant demand are your cheapest stabilizers, and most businesses will completely ignore that. A lot of the wealth that you have as a business is intangible in terms of the pipeline, and you want to really make sure that you're able to properly utilize it. You want to also adjust what you're doing weekly and not monthly. So volatility is going to grow when your feedback loops are slow. If you wait a month or two to react, you are too late, and that's generally what most companies do. As they get bigger, they just get slow. And at least at this stage, at 7 and 8 figures, I don't think that you should have an issue with adjusting, at least acquisition wise, weekly, not every 3 to 7 days, rather, because that is what helps you make the best types of changes. Again, while having patience in the long term, there is nuance there. So if you are a remodeler who's doing 5 to 40 million a year and this cycle feels familiar, I hope that this video helped you a bit. And the rest of this channel is also going to be for you. In future videos, I'll break down more about how volatility starts, where it starts, how to smooth demand across seasons, and how you can make systems that can remove panic from decision making, and also talk a bit about exiting and the things that you want to have in place, at least on the marketing side, just so that you can have a rough idea of which direction you want to take the business in, or who you want to keep in place to make things easier for you. Thanks for watching. Just leave a like please if you like the video, and you can comment down below if you have any questions. Thanks.